Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be part 25, 26, and 27. So of course, if you are seeing it for the first time, that means you are far behind. So you need to start from part 1. Part 1 up to part 22 was one episode. But this we're going to be doing it 3 videos from her part 1 of our video. So this is how a woman married a man that didn't exist.
Part 25 of How I Married a Man That Didn't Exist. I went the fuck off because how dare you? After all of the things that we've been through, after all of the lies, after all of the deception, after all of the back and forth and getting into rehab, and the I'll go tomorrow, I promise, and the sickness that I had with the anxiety, how fucking dare you? 2 weeks? 2 weeks apparently is going to become very important in this story. 2 weeks. I was livid. I felt like there was fire coming out of my bones. And furthermore,
Can you imagine?
his mom was there. We went through this whole process together. The talking back and forth, the communicating.
You guys remember, I've told you guys that this man's mom, she's an enabler. His mom has been the one enabling him. If not, he would have stopped a long time ago because she's financing his lifestyle. She doesn't say anything whenever, of course, it also speaks to the kind of upbringing she gave him. That means I don't think there was a man in that picture, which is why it's important to have a man in the picture of any child. And I'm saying this as someone that didn't have a man in the picture growing up until my later adult. Even when he came into the picture, it's as good as he was not in the picture. And I'm saying it from that experience. It's very, very important. There's a man in the picture of a child, a father figure, not just a man, a father
The
figure.
planning, the scheming to get him into rehab. He's sitting on your couch drinking a beer. And I was 2.5 hours away. If I could have come through that fucking phone. I don't get angry often. I don't lose my cool. I'm a calm, collected person for the most part. But when I tell you, I was seeing red. Of course he gets upset that I'm upset. He's trying to explain it away. I told you this would happen. I sympathize. I get it. I sympathize with what you're going through. I sympathize that the girl's aunt is in the hospital on life support. She's not going to make it. I understand that this is difficult for you. Maybe my empathy is my problem. Maybe I should swing first and ask questions later. I told you not to go. I knew this would happen. I'm not saying I know everything, but I know a lot. No, it's not like that. I'm just hanging out. It's just one beer. You know, I've only had like 2. I swear, baby, I swear it's okay. I'm not going back to liquor. I'll never drink liquor again. I'm not going to fall back into this same pattern. I promise. It's just a couple. And then it made me wonder, was he really sober for 2 weeks? Or was I just not there to see what he was drinking? And I'm going to go back to the part where he's drinking a beer on your couch after I just put him through detox. May have only been 26 hours, but I drove his ass up there. I stayed awake all night with knots in my stomach. I prayed that this was going to work. I was in communication with you. You're sick to death of this shit too. And he's sitting on your couch drinking a beer. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I'm fucking pissed. There was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do. I was 2.5 hours away. And what have I told you guys multiple times? When he has something in his mind, it is fact for Rob. And everybody else just has to fall in line. I don't remember much of what happened the days after that. I was still very, very upset. I was contemplating. I was like, Chastity, are you going to do this? But at this point, I had already gotten out of my lease. My apartment manager knew I was leaving. I was breaking my lease because it wouldn't have been up until April of this year. And they were letting me out of it without penalty. because I told her I'm getting married, I'm moving out of the area. I had already signed the deed. They had already had people looking at this apartment. It was a nice apartment, 2 bed, 1 bath, and they were going hot. It was a wonder I got this thing. I had already sold some of my stuff. I had already started looking for jobs over here. What was I gonna do? So I'm guessing at some point I just accepted it. And I did go back over the next weekend, and he was drinking beer. But what I was looking at was how much he was drinking. So he got the tall beers, the ones that are like 8%. These are the strongest beers you can buy. And granted, now he's spending less money, but that's not the point. So I had pulled up and I looked in the trash can, and I found a bag, like a grocery bag full of empty beer cans. And it was the same Steel Reserve nasty shit that he had been drinking. So I asked him about it, and he said, no, those are so-and-so's, somebody that is not relevant to this story. And of course I didn't believe him, and I'm like, are you sure? And I remember looking him in his face. I was toe-to-toe with him. I said, so if I go ask him, he's going to tell me those are his beers? Yeah. I don't think I ever asked. A lot of you girlies have told me to quit calling myself stupid, to quit saying that I know you guys are screaming at me through the phone. I have so many comments saying I'm not screaming, we're so supportive, and you are. But I can't help but feel like a dumbass right now. Because what did I do? I stayed. And I continued planning a wedding. After the initial shock wore off, after my anger subsided, it was business as usual. I was over there visiting. We were planning a wedding. There were good times. And it's because he was so charming. It wasn't like I just let it go. It wasn't like I just magically poofed this out of my conscience. He buttered me up so good. And I ate every last bit. He was so charming. He was so charismatic. He just knew how to turn it on. So I let it go.
And I want to believe the reason why he knows how to turn it on, because he's a manipulator and a liar. He has mastered the craft so well. So he has already studied her. He knows what to say to her, when to say it, and how to say it to butter her up. He has studied her. He has gone to the school of studying people. And what used to baffle me, people like that, why don't they use that's all that intelligence and channel it, do something that will benefit them? And but you never see them.
He's just drinking beer. But he's not sober. But he's just drinking beer. So the weeks leading up to the wedding, it was no longer just 1 or 2 beers. It was increasingly becoming more. And he obviously still needed money for his habit. So, oh God, my cats are fighting. So I was still sending him money, and his mom was still sending him money, and we were buying beer. And guess what? We're back in the same situation we were before. Bitching about money, bitching about buying him beer, bitching about sending him money. And I can't even talk at this point. I'm a whole ass accomplice. But it still baffles me that we did all of this pain, all of this struggle, and he sat on your couch drinking a beer, trying to hide it from me unsuccessfully. Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you intercept? And I know that she couldn't.
The same way you couldn't even stop him from doing anything. He's a whole human being. He's a man.
I know that he wouldn't have listened. But there had to have been some struggle. There had to have been some coming face to face with him and confronting him. He didn't get that money on his own. He didn't get that beer on his own. I don't know if I had sent him money at that time and that's what he used. But it came from somewhere. There was a planning of that. So either she gave him that or she went out and bought it for him. Now, this is another important moment to note, that his mother was also a drinker. And it was 7 nights a week, and it was either a few beers or a few glasses of wine religiously. So there was always alcohol in the house. It was a box of wine, or it was, I'm not going to say her brand of beer, but it was her beer. And that's something that worried me. She did approach him and ask, when he was sober for a very short amount of time, if her having the alcohol in the house was going to bother him. She did do that, and I respect that. And he said, no, it's not going to bother me. Like, you guys don't have to tiptoe around me. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, the fuck we do. It's not speaking on you as a person. It's speaking on sobriety. It's speaking on addiction. Addiction doesn't care. Addiction doesn't discriminate. You are not like this strong-willed person that's just going to lay it down and never pick it up again after 26 hours in rehab. But I accepted it, and I stayed. And I stayed and I stayed. Let's get into part 26. Part 26 of how I married a man that didn't exist. People keep asking me about his job. I had addressed this in a previous video. He had said he was on PTO. Remember when he had called out the first weekend we were together? And then when he came to stay with me, he said he was taking PTO. And I was just like, damn, you got some good PTO? He never went to work after that. So a few things could have happened here. He could have already either quit or got fired from this job before we met, and he never called out because he didn't have shit to call into. Or he quit his job or got fired, which is another good possibility, before the Connecticut trip. So it was sometime after our first meeting, before the Connecticut trip, where this job just no longer seemed to exist. And I didn't get a whole lot of clarity on that. And now I'm wondering why I didn't ask more questions. I think the narrative was, since he obviously couldn't go to Kay's house anymore, that he was moving back in with his mom, and that to help her, and that the job was too far, because the job was far from Kay's house, and Kay lived about an hour away from his mom. So that's the deal with the job. The job was no longer... After we met for the first time, I never saw this man at work. This man didn't go to work. I would video call him before we met, and he would be sitting in the car saying he was, at work taking a break. But after we met, he never went to a job. And not...
The man is so good at lying. Like, he can lie.
that he really could anyway, because his drinking was so severe, which leads me to believe he didn't have this job probably before we met. But I'll never know. I don't know. I'm speculating at this point. But I can make some pretty educated guesses based off of who I know he is. Part 26. We're going to fast forward this shit. We got to get this ball rolling. People are saying my videos are dragging. We are planning the wedding. I had accepted that he's drinking beer at this point. The beer drinking became more and more until it was a lot a day. I'm talking 6 to 8 beers a day. And I'm not talking the small cans. He had the big cans, remember? And they're 8%. So he thinks somehow this is better, but he has just traded one alcohol for another. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it was probably easier on his system than a fifth of liquor a day, but it doesn't matter because the end result is still the same. So... continuing planning the wedding, we had decided that we were going with a family member cooking. All of the other options were just wildly expensive. It was just too much for the small amount of people we were going to have. So a family member was going to be cooking our meal. He was pretty involved in the planning, as I said before, and one of his other stipulations, remember, slit in the wedding dress, and he wanted barbecue for our wedding, which... baby, I was 100% down for. My dad used to own his own catering company and did Carolina style barbecue. I am a southern food girly all the way. So we were going to do like chicken, ribs, pulled pork, all the fixins, and I just had to buy the food. I did obviously give them...
Guys, the Nigerian girl in me wants to know who was going to sponsor the wedding. Is she the one to sponsor the wedding? Because the man is requesting for barbecue. Did he drop any money? Because we know he doesn't have any job. He can't even afford his own liquor. They have to buy for him. So, as a man in this family, who is going to? I'm just imagining myself as a girl coming to tell my dad that I'm getting married. Then I can't even. It can't even happen to me. I'm sorry. So, not like I'm judging, but getting married to a man. I'm in my country. I'm getting married to a man, and I'm not the one sponsoring the wedding. Ah, my
Some
parents will
money,
tell me I'm not
but
getting married.
they didn't ask to be paid. Also, it's important to note, who do you guys think was paying for this wedding? I'll wait. It was me. I paid for everything. His mom chipped in, and his mom bought certain things and would help with certain things, but I shouldered the majority of it. Our wedding in total probably costed a little over $5,000. Remember that sum of money that I got? I used it to pay for our wedding. And I was happy to do it because I wanted to marry him and I wanted a wedding. He did bring up multiple times during our wedding planning that he didn't feel like a man. He felt like shit because he wasn't supporting or contributing financially to our wedding and to everything that we needed. And me being who I was at this point in my life, I was like, baby, it's okay. Like, I know that you're trying to get back on your feet. You were looking for work. You're
no. This is so much. Oh, this thing is hurting the Nigerian girl in me right now. Like, oh no, I'm in pain. No. What?
You gotta stop drinking again. This was another big thing. And I was also really upset because I had told him that if he was still drinking, I was not gonna marry him. I was gonna marry him sober. I didn't stick to that. What was I gonna do? Call off a wedding that I already paid for, then
why give an ultimatum that you can't follow through? I don't think any of us should ever give any ultimatum if we cannot follow through it. There's no
apartment that I was already moving out of. At this point, I truly felt stuck. I loved him. I was in love with him despite everything. Mind you, he's still charming me. The kids are still there warming me. His mother is still there loving me. So these red flags, these incidents where these horrible things are happening and I'm frustrated, they melt away. So we're getting married on the beach on the west coast of Florida, not too far from, where we're staying at the time. I hadn't moved yet, but we're doing a lot of planning. We had picked our colors, picked the cake, decided on the food, decided on the outfits. We were rolling with the planning. My mom was helping. I was sharing ideas. Now it came down to time. Now it came down to, I don't know what I just said. It came down to picking the song I'm walking down the aisle to. So I picked a song that I absolutely loved and I played it for him and he was just like, that's not it. And I was offended and I was upset because I'm like, this is such a beautiful song and it made me think of you and our, love. And he was just like, that's not it. I said, well, if you think you can do it better, then do it better. I had played him a few songs. Nothing felt right except for the one I picked that he didn't like. And I valued his opinion. If he said he didn't like something, I wasn't going to pick it. And it wasn't because I am, just doing whatever he wants. It's because I don't think a wedding day is just the bride's. I think it's the groom's too. So he ended up playing another song. And the moment he played it, and after it started for just a little bit, I cried. He said, this is how I feel about you. This is how I feel about us. And this is our wedding song. Just like the first time he did it. It was...
That man has perfected her. He knows the button to push. That guy is good. Like, he's good.
And the only reason I'm telling you what it is because this is going to become of great importance later on. It was Tangled Up in You by Stained, which happened to be his favorite band. If you haven't heard that song, go take a listen. It is a beautiful song. And I could totally see myself walking down the aisle to him with this song. So, some more time passed. Things are really coming together. I'm preparing to move. Now, we're jumping forward. There were a lot of fights still. I was still really upset about the alcohol and things like that. There was still some aggression, some things that weren't feeling right, but I'm committed at this point. My apartment is about to be at somebody else's apartment. The wedding's paid for. I'm doing job interviews. I felt like I'm stuck. And I'm not going to bore with any more little details in the middle. So the weekend before the wedding, this was August 16th and August 17th. The plan was, my house was all packed up. I had sold everything I wanted to sell. The plan was for me to come to the west coast of Florida Friday night. I had a dress fitting, and we had to, in the morning of Saturday, go pick up the U-Haul truck. And me, him, Emily's stepdaughter, and Emily's stepdaughter's father, these people are not really relevant to the story. They were coming with us to help me move. Friday evening, I got my hair done. I had dyed it this really pretty red. If you've seen my wedding photos and previous posts, you'll see like it was very vibrant. It was very pretty. And I did that because that's what I wanted it to look like for the wedding. I go and get my dress fitted, and it was ready to go. Like, it was ready for me to pick up. So I brought my dress home. And by home, I mean his mother's home now, because now I'm there. I am spending no more nights in my apartment. I walk in, I hide my dress in her closet, and he sees me, he sees my hair. It looked beautiful. He had curled it a little bit. He was just like all over me, and I'm not trying to be gross, but he was very affectionate, and he made me feel so beautiful, and he was like that. I'm telling you, he was like that 95% of the time. So we are preparing to go grab all of my things, and I will no longer be in Fort Lauderdale. I will be on the west coast of Florida from here on out. Let's go into part.
Oh, guys, I have to stop now. This earpod I'm using, it's giving me headache. My head is doing like this. I don't know. My head, once I start using this, it gives me a lot of headache. I really don't know what to do to stop. But I gotta do what I gotta do. That means that I have to be doing it one after the other. I will follow the way she uploaded it. So part 27, it will be a standalone now. Going forward, I'll be doing the video standalone so that once I finish, I can rest my head, then start again. Rest the head. I hope that's okay with you guys. See you in part 27. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, also check out my website where I sell my Afrocentric wear. You can see the top I'm wearing is Ankara crop top made with 100% cotton. It's available. You can, when you go on my website, you see others available there too. So see you in part 27.